Ever seen a Renault Clio hit 150 miles an hour? Or a grey Reps saloon like the Lotus Carlton outrun a Ferrari? Today, we're digging through the parts bins of the automotive world to find the maniac editions. The regular cars your gran might drive, secretly fitted with engines that had no business being anywhere near them. 10 cars that started life boring and ended up genuinely unhinged. Some were built to win races, some were built to win arguments, and at least one was built because an engineer clearly wasn't being supervised. Let's get into it. We'll start with that Clio. Now, the standard Clio of the early 2000s was about as spicy as a bowl of porridge, a cheap French hatchback, front-wheel drive, perfect for a trip to the boulangerie, and absolutely nothing else. So Renault, in their infinite wisdom, took that shopping car, ripped out the entire back seat, and shoved a 3-liter V6 engine where the passengers used to sit. Visual note: engine bay behind the front seats. The Phase 1 car, built from 2001, made around 227 horsepower. The later Phase 2, developed with help from Porsche and built in Dieppe, pushed that to roughly 255. It went from front-wheel drive to mid-engined rear-wheel drive, which is a bit like discovering your accountant moonlights as a cage fighter. The result was one of the widest, stubbiest, most intimidating hot hatches ever built. At nearly 1.8 meters wide, it was broader than a contemporary BMW 3 Series, and it weighed around 1,400 kilos, which for a Clio is frankly obscene. It was reportedly a nightmare to drive near the limit. With a wheelbase so short, it would try to swap ends the moment you got greedy with the throttle. Only about 1,500 of the Phase 1 cars were ever made. Journalists at the time loved it and feared it in roughly equal measure, and it owed its whole existence to a car from 20 years earlier, the one that basically invented this madness, because our next pick is the Renault 5 Turbo, slightly earlier, a lot madder, and the spiritual grandfather of that Clio. The standard Renault 5 was a tiny French runabout, the sort of car you'd forget you owned. In 1980, Renault turned it into a Group B homologation special. Same recipe: yank out the rear seats, drop a turbocharged 1.4-liter engine in the middle, and send power to the rear wheels. The bodywork ballooned outward with those enormous box arches to cover the wider track. Visual note: those huge rear arches and side scoops. It made about 158 horsepower in road trim, which doesn't sound like much today, but in a car that weighed roughly 970 kilos, it turned a grocery getter into a genuine rally weapon. In 1981, in the hands of Gene Ragnotti, it won the Monte Carlo Rally outright. This was style with real substance underneath, and it laid the groundwork for the rally monsters that followed. Now, Group B got banned in 1986 for being far too dangerous, so rallying moved to the tamer Group A rules, and that's where our next car comes in, the Lancia Delta. In its most basic form, a boxy little Italian hatchback, sensible and unremarkable. But Lancia turned it into the Delta Integrale, and it went on to become the most successful rally car of its era, winning 6 consecutive World Rally Championship manufacturers' titles from 1987 to 1992. Visual note: red martini liveried rally car sliding on gravel. The road-going Integrale Evoluzione had a turbocharged 2-liter engine, making around 210 horsepower, all-wheel drive, and those pumped-up arches that made it look like it was flexing. It's the crucial link between the wild Group B years and the Japanese all-wheel drive brawlers that came next, which is exactly where we're heading. Speaking of which, let's cross over to Japan and talk about a saloon your dad might have owned without ever knowing what it was capable of. The Mitsubishi Lancer, on paper, a dull 4-door family car, but bolt on the Evolution badge and everything changes. The Lancer Evo, across its many generations, from 1992 onwards, took that boring three-box shape and gave it a turbocharged 2-liter engine, sophisticated all-wheel drive, and enough electronic trickery to embarrass cars costing 3 times as much. The Evo 6 Tommi Mäkinen edition, named after the Finnish rally driver who won 4 straight world championships between 1996 and 1999, is the one collectors now fight over. It made around 276 horsepower, which was suspiciously exactly the figure every Japanese manufacturer claimed under a gentleman's agreement to cap power, a number almost nobody actually believed. It looked like a rep mobile and drove like something that wanted to hurt you, and its great rival was doing exactly the same thing, one showroom over. That rival, of course, was the Subaru Impreza. The regular Impreza was as beige as they come, a sensible, slightly awkward family saloon. Then the WRX and the STI versions arrived, and suddenly that same dowdy body had a turbocharged flat-4 boxer engine, a whacking great bonnet scoop, and a gold-wheeled, blue-painted attitude problem. Visual note: World Rally blue paint with gold wheels. Colin McRae, who took the 1995 Drivers' Championship in one, hurled these things sideways through forests across the world. The noise that boxer engine makes is unlike anything else on the road, that lumpy, offbeat burble that fans will recognize from a mile away. The regular Impreza was a nobody. The STI became a legend, and it's a legend built on a family car floor pan. Now for something completely different and a lot more British. Our next pick swaps rally stages for something far more absurd: the Vauxhall Lotus Carlton. In the late 1980s, the Carlton, or Opel Omega if you're on the continent, was the definition of a reps motorway cruiser. Grey, sensible, utterly invisible. Then Lotus got their hands on it. They took the straight-six engine, bored it out to 3.6 liters, bolted on 2 Garrett turbochargers, and produced around 377 horsepower. Visual note: that deep imperial green paint. This 4-door saloon could hit a top speed of roughly 176 miles an hour, which in 1990 made it faster than a Ferrari of the era. It was so fast that some British politicians and newspapers reportedly wanted it banned, arguing no family car had any business going that quickly. Nobody banned it. Only around 950 were built, and it just sat there in that dark green paint, quietly terrifying everyone who knew what it was. Staying in Britain, we have a car that became so notorious it developed a reputation with the wrong sort of driver: the Ford Sierra RS Cosworth. The regular Sierra was fleet manager wallpaper, a curvy rep mobile that nobody looked at twice. Then Ford's motorsport division and Cosworth got involved. They took a 2-liter engine, added a turbo, and produced around 204 horsepower in the road car, plus that enormous whale-tail rear wing that became an icon. Visual note: the giant rear wing. The later Sapphire Cosworth added a 4-wheel drive version that went on to dominate rallying and touring cars. These are the cars that also became infamous with joyriders in the early 90s, which tells you everything about how quick they actually were. And Ford weren't done making sleepers, as we'll see later. But let's pause on the humble hot hatch for a second, because you can't talk about boring cars turned brilliant without the one that defined the whole idea: the Peugeot 205 GTI. The standard 205 was a cheap, tinny French supermini, but add the GTI badge, a 1.9-liter engine making around 128 horsepower and a curb weight of under 900 kilos, and you had one of the finest handling cars of the 1980s. Visual note: white 205 GTI with red pinstripe on wheel arches. It's the car every rival tried to beat, and many enthusiasts still reckon nobody quite managed it. Light, chuckable, and endlessly fun. Proof that you don't need a huge engine to turn something ordinary into something special. And Peugeot's even wilder version, the mid-engine 205 T16, went off to win the Group B rally title, but that's a story for another day. Our next pick proves you don't always need turbos to be mad. Sometimes you just need a lot of cylinders. The Volkswagen Golf R32. The standard Golf was the sensible European hatch, the default choice for anyone who didn't want to think too hard. Then in 2002, Volkswagen dropped a 3.2-liter narrow-angle VR6 engine into it, gave it four-wheel drive, and produced around 237 horsepower. Visual note, the twin center exit exhausts. It was the first car you could buy with a DSG dual-clutch gearbox, and it made a glorious six-cylinder howl that no modern Turbo 4 can match. It was heavy, it was a bit nose-led, but it turned the humble Golf into something with a genuinely exotic soundtrack. Which brings us back to Ford and the Focus RS. The regular Focus was, again, sensible transport for millions. But the Mark II RS of 2009 gave it a 2.5-liter, 5-cylinder turbo engine borrowed from Volvo, producing around 301 horsepower, all sent through the front wheels via a clever, limited-slip differential Ford called Revo Knuckle. Visual note, ultimate green paint. The loud one. It tramped and fizzed and fought you under acceleration in a way that was completely bonkers. And the later Mark III RS added four-wheel drive, and famously, a drift mode that let you hang the tail out on demand. A feature that got a lot of insurance companies very nervous. From a family hatchback. Now for our penultimate entry, and it's the one that sounds the most made up. The Mercedes-Benz 19 OE 2.5 16 Evolution 2. The regular 190E was a small, upright, sensible executive saloon, the sort of thing a German dentist would drive. But to go touring car racing, Mercedes commissioned Cosworth to build a 2.5-liter 16-valve engine, and then created the Evolution 2 with a wild adjustable rear wing and arches so aggressive it looked like it was wearing body armor. Visual note, that enormous adjustable rear spoiler. It made around 235 horsepower. Only 502 were built for homologation. And it went to war with the BMW M3 in the German DTM Touring Car Championship throughout the early 90s. A proper grudge match fought out on circuits like the Nürburgring. A boxy little saloon, transformed into a track weapon your dentist absolutely could not afford. And that idea, a sensible saloon that could embarrass supercars, brings us to our final and possibly maddest entry. The Volvo. Yes, the Volvo, the brand that built its entire reputation on being safe, square, and about as exciting as a tax return. In the mid-1990s, Volvo went touring car racing with the 850, campaigning an estate version so it looked like they were racing furniture. To celebrate, they built the T5R. Visual note, the estate version, ideally in that cream yellow. A turbocharged 5-cylinder estate, often finished in a shade of yellow that could be seen from space, making around 240 horsepower and capable of humiliating far sportier machinery at the traffic lights. Picture it. A car designed to carry a Labrador and a flat-pack wardrobe, suddenly quick enough to worry a hot hatch. There is something deeply funny about a Volvo estate being one of the fastest ways to move a family in the entire decade. It was the ultimate sleeper, hiding in plain sight, wearing sensible shoes. So there you have it. 11 perfectly boring cars that someone somewhere decided to turn completely feral. And honestly, this is barely scratching the surface. There are dozens more of these things lurking out there. So here's my question for you. Which boring car deserves the crazy treatment next? Is there a sensible little runabout you reckon would be brilliant with triple the power? Let me know down in the comments, because I'm always hunting for the next story. If you enjoyed this one, give it a like and hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Cheers for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.